just can't wait to be king.
Be careful what you wish for.
I think it's pretty common knowledge now that Lion King is based on Hamlet. But as someone who never read Hamlet, I was curious how similar they actually are. I know, it's crazy to have not read Hamlet as an English person, but in my defense, my school was obsessed with Macbeth for some reason. Like, I studied that for 5 years straight and I don't know why. But either way, I decided to read both Macbeth and rewatch The Lion King, so I can create this video for you guys comparing the two masterpieces. And boy did I notice a lot of similarities and some key differences that actually change a lot. Let's get started by looking at the basic framework that connects the two stories. This can be summarized into these 5 stages: the death of the king, the banishment of the prince, ghost dad appears, the return of the prince, the death of the uncle. This shows that the basic building blocks of the story are the same. You can really feel the inspiration from the source material. But the thing is, these events happen in very different parts in the story. Lion King starts with Simba being born, showing Simba's childhood and more importantly the relationship he has with his dad. I think this change was important because death is abstract for children. I don't think they would fully comprehend it if they didn't know the character. I mean, no one is mourning Snow White's dad. We needed to bond with Mufasa directly in order to fully traumatize the young ones. Plus, it is a much better match for the change in the theme that we'll discuss later. Hamlet, on the other hand, starts 2 months after the death of the king. We never actually get to see the relationship between Prince Hamlet and King Hamlet. Yes, they are both called Hamlet. Royalty naming children after themselves. What a crazy concept. But while we as the audience don't really care about the king's death ourselves, we can see that Hamlet really loved his dad. He is in a deep depression of grief. In fact, he seems to be the only one grieving over his father's death, as his mum Gertrude has already married his uncle who's taken the throne. Actually, the queen is even part of the reason why the uncle killed his brother. Aside from wanting the throne like Scar, he also wanted his wife. And he got both. A win is a win. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, no, this queen is not the most loyal of women. That is some hoe behavior. I'm just saying, Sarabi would never. Anyway, we do actually get to see Hamlet interact with his dad. Sort of. It is the ghost dad. Hamlet meeting his ghost dad is really what starts the plot off. It happens at the beginning of the story as ghost dad tells Hamlet that he was killed by his uncle and that Hamlet has to avenge him. This obviously contrasts Mufasa's appearance, which doesn't happen till the end of the second act, inspiring Simba to Don't get me wrong, Patrick Stewart as a ghost yelling at his son David Tennant was cool, but nothing will ever beat James Earl Jones as a lion cloud guru god. Which obviously leads us to another key detail that is different, as while Hamlet has to decide whether to murder his uncle, he lacks the guilt that Simba felt that made Simba exile himself. Simba thinks he killed his dad, which caused him to run away and never return. Hamlet, on the other hand, at first thinks it was an accident, then he knows his uncle did it. This is another key difference between the two stories, as Simba's exile not only happens much sooner in the story but also gets much more attention. It gets a whole song number, introduces 2 iconic characters, and we get to see Simba hit puberty. In Hamlet, it's like, go to England. Okay. Uncle is like, he will die in England, and Hamlet doesn't even make it to England before coming back. He's gone maybe like 2 weeks? I don't know, they don't specify, but definitely not long enough to go through puberty. Now, it is important to remember that at the end of the day, this is a kid's movie. Don't let the fact that Scar got ripped to shreds by hyenas distract you from this idea. Seriously, Disney can be so dark sometimes. But either way, keep that concept in mind for the next part. In The Lion King, Simba comes back, fights Scar and reclaims his throne to become the new Lion King with a whole ass wife and baby. This contrasts Hamlet, where everyone dies. No, seriously, everyone dies. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd never read Hamlet before deciding to make this video, but I vaguely knew what it was about. I live in England and I talk to people sometimes, so I knew a lot of people died at the end. What I thought was going to happen is Hamlet comes back and goes on a murder spree like that old dude from Game of Thrones. The reality is much more ridiculous. I mean, seriously, Shakespeare in his ending sometimes. He must hate sequels because ain't enough characters left to make Hamlet 2 Hamlet's Pride. But okay, enough foreplay. What happens is Hamlet comes back and his uncle comes up with a new plan to kill him with this guy Laertes, who is the son of the guy that Hamlet killed. I will cover who got killed in a second, but for now it doesn't matter. Hamlet gets challenged to a fencing match by the man and he accepts. The plan is to cover his sword in poison so when he scratches Hamlet he dies from the poison. And the uncle is like, mate, what if you're shit at fencing? We need a backup plan. So what they decide is if Hamlet wins without getting scratched, the uncle will offer him a congratulations drink and poison that. Stuff happens, but long story short, mother drinks from the poison cup, Hamlet gets cut by Laertes, they fight, swap swords, and Laertes gets cut by the poisoned sword as well. Hamlet kills his uncle before dying from the poison. Hamlet's best friend tries to kill himself, and Hamlet's like,
"What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?"
So he decides to live. Honestly, it was the craziest game of rock, paper, scissors ever, or dominoes, whichever you prefer. I wanted to cover some of the key characters that overlap between the two stories. I also wanted to discuss the differences in the two story themes. This ending gives me a nice segue into both of these, as the differences between the two main characters and the theme of the stories are both reflected in the ending. Simba's story is all about stepping up and growing into your responsibilities. In this way, the theme is very similar to Into the Spider-Verse, which is also about a child stepping into their responsibilities. I know, subtle commentary is really why you follow me. I mean, you are subscribed, right? Good. This is also why we spend so much time on watching Simba grow up, watching him turn from cub into lion, and then lion into the Lion King. The ending mirrors the beginning, as in a way, Simba becomes Mufasa with his own wife and child. A child who will cause him a ton of problems in the sequel when Simba's racism starts showing. The story had to end with him being king, as it was the only way the theme of the hero's journey would be complete, literally completing the circle of life. Hamlet, on the other hand, isn't about growing into shit. It's about madness and grief. At the end of the day, his dad's character didn't matter as much to the story as Mufasa did. The story realistically could have played out in a similar way if his sister had died, or his mum, which is not true for Simba. It had to be the Lion King. The point was for Hamlet to become obsessed, and in his obsession, mad. This is why we don't want him banished, as we need to see how the changes in him affect those around him. To be clear, he was faking his madness to an extent to cover his tracks, as he tries to kill his uncle, but also he was kinda acting mad. When you're talking to your ghost dad and yelling at the love of your life to join a nunnery and killing people randomly, at what point is it not you faking, do you know what I'm saying? But also this had to be Hamlet's end. There was no normal life for him after this story. His father wanted to be avenged, which he was, but also, if we're being real, the whole family was rotten, so none of them could have taken the throne. Could you imagine being a peasant and finding out that crazy Prince Hamlet has taken the throne? Fuck no, you'd go all French on their ass. The theme of grief is also reflected in Ophelia, who's basically like Nala, the love interest, if you can even call her that in Hamlet. After the death of her father, Ophelia also goes mad, and it's hinted that she drowned herself. Honestly, she's not that important to the overarching story between Prince and Uncle, if I'm being honest. Aside from the fact that they think he went mad because she rejected him, which honestly is kind of crazy mental gymnastics considering his dad died a few weeks ago. I would have assumed that was the trigger, but different times. Her story literally goes, she tells her family, Hamlet is telling me he loves me. Her family responds, he is lying, he just wants to smash. Don't do it. Then Hamlet shows up in her rooms, arse cheeks out, just trying to get some, and she's like, no. Her dad makes her return the stuff that Hamlet gave her, like love letters and stuff, to prove that he is love crazy. Hamlet then gets angry and tells her to go to a nunnery.
To a nunnery go, and quickly to farewell.
Then she goes mad as a bat when her dad dies, drowns, and then it's her funeral. Nala, on the other hand, does have a direct influence on the main conflict. She is the one that finds Simba. In a way, she's the one that convinces him to come back. And once he is back, she gets him an army of badass lionesses to fight the final battle. Plus, she gives him a baby, which honestly, after this look, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. What animator worked on this? Imagine getting that job request. Excuse me, you want me to draw a horny lioness? Cool. Don't ask me why, but I already have a few sketches we could use, is how I imagine the conversation went. Anyway, there is a character in Hamlet that kind of reminds me of Zazu, which is Polonius. Now, this might shock you, but he is not a bird that is voiced by a legend, but what he is the king's assistant. He is also the father of Ophelia and Laertes, as well as the man killed by Hamlet. Hamlet killed him because he was spying on him when he tried to have a conversation with his mum. Hamlet mistook him for his uncle and stabbed him through some curtains. Not really an accidental death because Hamlet was trying to kill someone, but more like misaimed. I will say, not making him Nala's dad was a good change, because imagine this bird raising Nala. Disney would never create such horrors. That's more of a DreamWorks thing. In any case, Polonius had a much bigger impact to the story than Zazu did, as his death gave Uncle the metaphorical gun that was used to kill Hamlet. Anyway, the last major character left to discuss is Scar versus Claudius. I think we can all agree that Scar is one of the most iconic villains, with probably the best villain song of all time. Aside from maybe... The similarity between these two characters is that they are both skeeving, conniving, and prefer to let other people do their dirty work, whether it be hyenas or grieving Frenchmen. Plus, obviously, they both killed their brothers and took the throne. I will say there are a few key differences between the characters. One of which seems to be that no one really has a problem with Claudius taking the throne. I mean, the queen married him and Polonius supported and confided in him. I guess to be fair, he was on the throne a lot less time, so maybe he didn't have time to lead them astray. But either way, it's Hamlet versus everyone else. The second big difference is that to a certain extent, Claudius did show a level of remorse for killing his brother. Scar was overjoyed to share the news. He even went as far as bragging about it to Simba, which obviously ultimately led to his downfall, directly into the jaws of some hyenas. Uncle, on the other hand, it's more complicated. There is a scene of him praying and discussing with God his sins. On one hand, he does sort of wonder if he can be redeemed from the sins of killing his own blood.
Is there not rain enough in the sweet heavens to wash it white as snow?
But he also admits he wouldn't give back what he has to get his brother back. Like, his brother's death came with rewards he wouldn't return. Scar just wanted to be king. Uncle wanted his whole brother's life. He stole his throne, his girl, and tried to be a father to Hamlet before he tried to kill him. I mean, he literally says,
And think of us as of a father.
how much you believe in what he's saying, that's up to you. I have to say though, Scar being so unapologetically evil is something that is so perfect for the story, but also kind of makes Mufasa come across as a little arrogant and careless. Like, Scar outright threatens him and Mufasa's response is like, do you want to fight?
Oh no, Mufasa. Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me.
Bro, get this lion away from your children. But I guess if you consider the new Mufasa film canon, that explains it a bit more, but whether you do or not, that's completely up to you. I'm also going to point out that out of all the Disney villains, Scar is probably the most successful. I mean, sure, he did become dog meat at the end, but he killed his brother and became king for several years. How many Disney villains can actually say they achieved that much? Not many. To conclude this video, I want to go back to the beginning, the circle of life, if you will. I think I've effectively shown how each story goes through the 5 stages. But the thing is, while the general outline is the same, it's the smaller details that make art what it is. The 2 stories focus on different parts in a different order with different themes and a completely different ending. Also, Hamlet isn't a musical. That part is important too. I'm pretty sure Hamlet's singing
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
would have massively undermined the themes a little bit. I think Disney did a fantastic job of adapting a classic story from the 1600s, and I believe that in terms of longevity, it will match Hamlet. To be honest, at this rate, Disney is probably still going to be making reboots and sequels to the franchise in 400 years. Now, I have a very personal relationship to this movie, as my mum tells me I used to watch it religiously as a child, repeating it word for word. I don't think it's an over-exaggeration to say that The Lion King had an impact, no matter how minor, in making me the man I am today. While it is for each person to decide, I have to say that I think the story of The Lion King resonates with me stronger, and I know it's blasphemy to say, but I think it probably is the better story. How much of that is nostalgia? Meh.
I guess we'll never know.
If you disagree, that's absolutely fine. Like I said, art is personal and for each person to decide. Either way, I think we can all agree, personal preferences aside, that they are both masterpieces. Now, the next part is important as I need your help. Me and my friends are having a disagreement about which song is most iconic from Lion King. To help us settle this, I need you to comment below what you think. As my subscribers, I hope you agree with me, but I can't tell you what to think as not to muddy the results. I will respond, however, whether you're right or wrong. The Lion King is one of my top 3 favorite Disney movies of all time, and I will be covering a second one next week. I won't tell you what it is, but see if you can guess in the comment section below based on this song. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe on the way out. I have lots of great videos coming out and some great videos already out that you should check out too. I know you'll love them and it will massively help my algorithm. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you in the next video.